What is up, YouTube? And let me see if you guys can actually hear me. Shoot, I do have microphone control. And let's see, testing, 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 testing. Well, I don't know if I'm loud enough. Let's see if I can crank this up. Testing, testing, testing. Got an entirely new rig this morning, and I falsely anticipated that everything was going to work when I launched my chat this morning. All right, let's re-invite people because the old link is no longer working. Okay, testing. All right, that seems to be working. Well, I'm not going to drag things out anymore. Let me go ahead and get the invite sent out back on Twitter. And again, I am sorry for the way things are dragging out this morning, guys. It is a new rig for me, and I had some unexpected troubleshooting problems because this is the first time I'd got a new computer and actually scheduled the video out ahead of time. And when I tried going back into the video to launch it, I couldn't launch it. So there was just a whole host of problems. You live, you learn, and that's how you get better at these things. So next time around, we'll try it again, and hopefully it'll be a little bit problem free this time. Um, let's see, how can I get this wonderful stream out to other folks? Oh, what were some of the things we were going to talk about today? Yeah, so I have been discovering with my own legal situation that it is difficult to do the actual administration of getting me off of an SO list. So while the process is straight up simple, you get your judgment removed, the judge bangs his gavel. There's all this bureaucracy that happens after that that you've got to obey. which has nothing to do with the court system. It's literally bureaucratic stuff. So it's been causing quite the bit of strife in my life, and I've been having to get back to some basics, especially like meditation and yoga. Really, saying I can only do what I can do, man. I can't do anymore, and there's certain things that are just out of my control. But I'm not going to surrender. I'm not going to surrender. It's all about making sure that I'm working a system and I'm staying on task. So I got to do what I got to do. All right. Um, yeah, yeah. Anything work this morning? Ugh. Let's do it this way. Man, I already lost half an hour. Well, I got a link out and we'll see if anybody comes in. For those of you who are brand new to this channel, I keep this Monday morning chat open as an opportunity for other people who are going through recovery circle activities to be able to come on, talk anonymously about any problems they might be having, or just in general, just chatting about things. If you look back through some of my other channel content, I typically will talk about things that are in the news and talk about some basic recovery tactics. There are a few things that were on my mind I wanted to talk about. One of the things I was talking about this morning is right time thinking. It's a cognitive distortion, right? So everyone does this. It doesn't even matter if you're an addict or not. The right time thinking, it goes something like this. I'm not going to do the thing I should be doing right now because it's not the right time to do it. The right time is blah. Now, the right time could have a legitimate thing going on with it. Like maybe it's a time component. Maybe you're obsessed with launching at the beginning of the month because you want to follow along with other people. So typical New Year's Day, right? That tends to be I'm going to hold off until New Year's Day to start my diet, right? So you've got your resolution kicking. It's a start of a new year. So there's something symbolic about a new start and that fresh date, right? But when we start talking about other things that are perhaps a little bit more harmful to yourself, um, maybe you shouldn't be putting those things off, because what's going to happen, right, is that you're going to do as many bad things as you possibly can up until that day. And with alcoholics, they see that a lot, right? People know they're going into a recovery facility and they'll show up drunk, like they're literally drinking as much as they possibly can. And if you ask any one of those people that were getting blitzed before they walked into the recovery center, like, was it worth it? Well, at the time that they were doing it, probably they're like, in their mind, in their sick mind, they're like, yeah, it was worth it. But in their healthy mind, they're just like, no, it didn't make any freaking sense that I was doing that. Like, it lacks logic whatsoever. It's just like you're living for the moment at that exact moment, right? And there's no real backing of any technical or logistical sense that says you should have been holding off, going into whatever your recovery effort is. And in this case, with pornography, holding off a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what's that really get you? Do it now. Like, do it now. Start working on your recovery plan right now. Um, let's see. Just checking in with the chat. We haven't gotten anybody in. We had like 3 or 4 people come in last week. And again, guys, I sat on this, so it is my fault entirely. My fault entirely. Here, let me get rid of that old link. All right, well, we got a few links out there. Let's see if anybody picks up the line. It's not a big deal if I don't get anybody on today. Like I said, I don't blame anybody. I launched this shit super late, so what else did I want to talk about? I had some other things I had lined up today. Oh man. Oh brother. Yeah, there was this article that was out in the New York Compost, as I like to call it. Nadia Bakadi, why No Nut November needs to stop. And honest to God, man, I have never seen so many logical fallacies in one article. When I read articles like this, the first thing it makes me think of is what my mindset used to be like before I got into all of this, because a lot of the defenses sound like something that I would have come up with back in the day, and that's when I was in my active addiction, right? So my mind wanted to seize on logistical reasons why I could defend what I was doing, and I couldn't confront what I was doing. And I'm not saying that this person is an addict. I'm just saying that this is the sort of thing as an addict you would probably latch onto, especially like if you're like 100% into the sex positivity and you're existing in that space because you find sex is good and you like to consistently engage in activities that are sexual. So you can't you don't want to hear the negativity, because the negativity sounds like conservative, like a conservative judgment, moral judgment against your activities, right? You don't want to hear that crap. Um, and so articles like this, they're they're against that. Like they're fighting what they perceive as moralistic judgments against a system that inherently has no consequence. Um, but speaking as a person who's gone through that entire thing, who has seen the consequences, right? There is consequence. There is obviously consequence to doing this. And the article starts off, talking about things like, as someone who grew up in Catholic Church, not knowing the meaning of the word masturbation. So immediately, you're hearing from the author repression. Like, she comes from a place of repression. And I can empathize. I can empathize with that position and why somebody might want to jump on the other side and like fly those banners, right? Um, but the problem in doing this is the worldview. When you read this person's article, the worldview of this person sounds as if there can't be any world in which somebody can go through a lot of damage in their consumption of pornography and not be in that moralistic, guilt-ridden shame side of things, but instead be coming at it from a place of concrete, and I mean concrete, um, neurochemical imbalance, living in a world of constant obsession and compulsion and not being able to stop, and through time being able to create lots of neurotic behaviors, which is what I was going through, and a lot of people out there are going through right now. So yeah, this entire article is the fallacious reasoning is just all over the place. And the reason I bring this up is is not just simply because I want to make people aware of, I know I did it, I know other guys do it. They'll latch onto an article like this and defend their compulsions, right? And their habits and their addictions. They'll use this as evidence, but the evidence that's being presented in this article is, um, it sounds scientific, but it's just grabbing onto anything that it can grab onto essentially, and it's using logical fallacies to do it. And what are some of those fallacies? Um, let's just read through. Though no one claims, proponents of No Nut November make including increased testosterone in men and improved mental clarity are backed up by research or literature. Well, first stop right there. Um, Regardless of what you think about No Nut November, there's a lot of research that has been conducted within the last few years that are backing up claims. I'm not saying about testosterone. I know nothing about the testosterone levels, but when we're talking about a therapeutic managing and talking about people who have compulsive attitudes towards sexuality, there's plenty of research out there. Um, and I think, her just focusing on, one of those claims and saying, well, the entire thing is irrelevant. Wait, no, no, no. You're making an assertion there and ignoring all the other evidence that's out there. So it's broken argument. As November approaches, and online forums on the topic swell, and evangelists exchange memes about no nutters levitating and gaining psychic powers. And again, damn it. So, in that sentence alone, she's making the assertion that anybody who's engaging in No Nut November is an evangelist, right? Um, and I think she's not meaning like religious evangelist. She's talking about an evangelist of No Nut November, um, levitating and gaining psychic powers. So this is the sort of thing that I kind of harp on, and you've probably heard me talk about it in other videos. Like, there's a lot of false claims that are, I think, inside of the NoFap space in general that you kind of just do the eye roll and just like, come on, man, really, just stick to reality. And this is this is the reason why I hate that crap, because people like this will use that as evidence, or as not as evidence, as a mechanism for being able to talk against the entire movement. That's exactly what's being done here. It's like, oh, you see, they talk crazy, so all of them are crazy. Again, another logic fallacy. But while the trend may be new and seemingly inane, the sex phobia underlining it isn't. Look, let's just get this straight. I am not sex phobic. I am the exact opposite. I have stated many times that I'm sex positive on a lot of different videos that I have here. You can get into this space and recognize that you have a problem and still be like, yeah, you know what? I'm not against sex. That's, why would I be against sex? Sex is not the problem. My problem is that I have a hard time stopping, right? That's not saying that sex is the enemy. It's just saying that I cannot manage things. That's all it's saying, right? And then she does a quote on Reddit. Contrary to what no nutters claim, there is a growing body of research to suggest regular solo sex is not only positive for our well-being, lower cholesterol, muscle relaxation, and endorphin release, among other benefits. Abstaining from it can be detrimental to prostate health. This is exactly the type of crap that I used to buy into. And so, what they're doing, or what this person is doing, is just arbitrarily grabbing onto research and saying, "See, this supports my side." No, it doesn't. And there's a further argument here which really needs to be explored, which is the assertion that if you're engaging in No Nut November, that you are anti-sex, right? Which that's preposterous. There might be some out there who are, but in general, that's a preposterous argument, that saying that solo sex is necessarily harmful to you. Who's saying that? You know, you will never hear me on my entire channel ever say that masturbation is bad for you. What is bad for you is when you excessively start doing something like an activity like that and you can't stop, and it starts causing real problems in your life, like not being able to think straight, not being able to manage stress, all which has a lot of starting to have a lot of bodies of evidence out there that we can back with research, right? There's a lot of things that going nuts on sex can do to you that are bad. That doesn't mean you're anti-sex, doesn't mean you're anti-masturbation. It just means that, some people can't manage that and they need to chill out on that shit. Hence, not November and movements like this. So she goes on to quote another research. And by the way, ignoring every single body of research that, right? I want you to keep this in mind if you ever read an article like this. Ignoring every other single body of evidence that would seem to point to suggesting to people with problematic porn usage having real issues, right? Ignoring all of that. Whose website says it's a secular community, talking about NoFap, secular community centered sexual health problem platform designed to help you overcome your porn addiction, porn overuse, and compulsive sexual behavior. In truth, movements like no nut and no fap don't resolve stress about sex; they create it. Ugh. What would this person consider to be a resolution to compulsive sexual use? And I'm throwing this out there. I want you to think about it too, because this is an important question. What would be a resolution to a person who is experiencing compulsive and habitual sexual or pornography use? a person who clearly has um, regressive and harmful tendencies in their usage. And I think what this article fails to acknowledge is that, yes, that can happen. And again, the article keeps on going on about you know, research published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology confirms religious or moral disapproval of pornography, not frequency of porn consumption or masturbation, are the most influential factors in a person determining that they have an addiction. Bullshit. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. You know, one study that does a um, that does research about the reasons why somebody would consider themselves to have an addiction draws the conclusion that the basis for which they're doing it has a religious and moral component. Okay, so are you going to take that one study and just say that, well, all people who claim to have a porn addiction are moralistic people who, they're so caught up in their morals about using pornography that they feel guilty and remorse? You're gonna honestly make that judgment against every single person who identifies as a porn addict. And this is the sort of crap that just drives me bonkers about this sort of thing. You know, Gary Wilson a while back was raising the red flag about this type of stuff. And there's going to be people who are going to be out on that space, and maybe you know, um, they're not officially in a pro porn platform, but they'll do everything they possibly can to, because they see anything in this research that's maybe positive towards pornography addiction. They'll see any research as being a moralistic attack, as opposed to there being a clear clinical base for this happening. And just for the record, guys, I you're looking and talking to an addict here. I wasn't some crazy person running around, preaching morals. I didn't come from a strong religious background when I got into this. I'm an addict because I had about over 20 years plus of just not being able to stop. Plain and simple until I literally drove myself into a hole with and you can watch my other videos on it, but anxiety, stress. I couldn't manage things anymore, couldn't think clearly anymore. It seemed to exasperate all my ADHD symptoms. All right. We're at 9:46. I'll give it a few more minutes here. We haven't gotten any people in chat this morning. And like I said, I don't blame them, but I'll keep this up. I'm gonna I'm gonna stop reading on this article right now because don't think there's a lot of point to just talking about it anymore. Another thing I had posted was another video. This one was by Dr. Trish Lee, and she's a she's a neurologist, and she has a YouTube channel. It's actually pretty good. I haven't gone through all of her content, but she was talking about porn-induced ADHD, and I had mentioned on a prior video that I had been diagnosed with ADHD in the past, and one of the things that came to light while I was there, getting my testing done, was that they had asked me a couple of times whether or not I used porn. This is back in 2010 or 2011. When I had gotten diagnosed, they had asked me a couple times if I had used porn. And so they must have had a handle on things back then. And I don't know what body of evidence they were looking at, but they had an understanding about something. Um, and what she goes on, this particular doctor, she goes to talk about, and I would invite you all. The title of the video is called "Porn-Induced ADHD: How Watching Porn Decreases Focus," and you can go out to my Twitter channel. I posted a link there. Um, and she talks about, like, you have your normal ADHD, and then you have, what she calls like the porn-induced ADHD, and the symptoms mirror one another, but there's a clear difference about how you would approach and be able to diagnose this and treat one versus the other. One is a, you know, is a problem which has been passed down through the generations that you probably had it your, your life, and your family members probably had it too. And another one, so there's a, probably a DNA thing going on here, right? It's carried down from generations. Then you have another aspect where consistent use of pornography is affecting your dopamine levels, and is affecting your ability to cognitively process information, right? So you cut out the activity, and over time your brain goes back to the way it was, which is what Gary Wilson used to talk about all the time. Um, so I think that this is a this is something to consider if you feel that you're foggy, or you've been diagnosed with ADHD yourself, and you've been the whole time you've been diagnosed, you have been a porn user. What she says is that you just try to think back. Try to think back in your history. Were you ever a good student in elementary school, maybe? Right? In middle school, were you like a good student, and then all of a sudden things started going a little haywire and you couldn't track anything anymore? Well, when was the first time you used porn? Right? And if those two things are in line with one another, maybe you consider that your use is impacting your cognitive ability and creating ADHD like symptoms. Um, and the way you're going to know that is the second you stop using, if you start experiencing clarity. If all of a sudden things start getting easier, you're able to track things, time stops being elusive for you. You know, stress is a lot easier to manage. If all of those things are true, then perhaps it was the porn, the insane amount of porn consumption that you were doing that was causing your ADHD like symptoms. Because this doesn't happen if it's just like a one off, like if you were just like, once a week or something like that. That's not going to happen. If you're doing it 6 times a day, that's a different story. All right. What time we got? 9:50. Well, my sincerest apologies. Oh, hey, good morning. How are you, sir? Sorry, I'm on my big monitor here. Let me. Is it Yassine? Yassine, good morning. How are you? So that's it for that. I think I'm done with all my news items this week. If you have anything you want to chat about, go ahead and chat. Yeah, for all the people coming on late, um, Yassine asks how to recover fast from porn. You got to start now. You have to start now, Yassine, and there's no easy answer to this. The first thing you want to do is you want to sit down and make a recovery plan. So I would recommend, don't use the computer. Just turn off all your devices. Park your cell phone in another room. Just close your laptop or turn your monitor off. Get a pad and paper. Get a pad of paper. Um, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to sit down and you're going to start listing all the ways in which you consume. So, you know, what devices were you on? What ways and times do you start using? And you might say, well, I use all the time, but really, you probably have certain times and places that you're at, locations, times, places, all times at which you're consuming, and maybe even write down some of the things you are going after, like write them all down. Um, and that's your That's your introduction to writing what we call a recovery plan. The recovery plan is a way of being able to state what the problem is and start giving yourselves alternatives to when the cravings are going to hit. Because the second you commit yourself to stopping, your brain wants to continue going through that process. It does. It knows it's being denied and it wants to continue doing the thing that you're trying to deny it from. So your frontal lobes are like, okay, I need to stop this. But what generates all of the habitual behavior is not this part right here of your brain. It's the underlying brainstem, the gangula part. And that's where all the emotional regulation for habit formation is being controlled at. And so it wants to keep doing its routine. It doesn't want to stop doing its routine. So the thing you've got to do is you've got to track all of your behaviors. You start by doing that, write it all down. And then once you've gotten your behaviors written down, you're going to then start saying what's your alternative. So sometimes we're talking about location. Um, if you are in the bathroom, for example, when you're doing your porn searching, um, now you know that every time you're in the bathroom, right? You want to do that, and your brain's going to want that process to continue. So you might go into the bathroom. You may not even have your cell phone with you, but all of a sudden a craving might hit. So when that craving hits on that piece of paper, what are you going to do next? Sorry about that. What are you going to do next? Okay. Yeah, I think I use it when I have stress or really bad days. Stress and emotional triggers are, I'd say, probably the number one thing for me personally. And writing that down too is like, how do I feel and what am I going to do next? And so, options you can have is the second you start to experience an emotional trigger. I personally started using yoga and meditation as one of my tools and tactics, which I created a video on. Um, and the thing about yoga and meditation is you can't just jump right into it. You got to have to get good at doing it. So don't think you can just jump right into it and have it be a successful replacement. It takes work. Once you start getting good at it, you can get into a meditative state really quick, and it will take away that trigger effect right away. But you don't stop or you don't not start learning how to do meditation. What you do is you start the process of learning meditation or yoga, um, and then you also have calling like a friend, for example, like find somebody else that exists inside of recovery space or somebody that you trust and just say, hey, you know what? I just need to talk for a second. And all you need is about 5 to 10 minutes. That's all it takes for a craving to go away. You make that conversation happen and you talk about anything. It could be about, I don't know, a sport. It could be about how your day was going. It could be about the weather. Just have a conversation for, 5 to 10 minutes until the craving goes away. And by the second you hang up, you're going to be like, you'll check in with yourself. You'll be like, what am I feeling right now? Oh, okay. I'm feeling pretty good. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to wrap up soon. My chat ran super late today because I was having some technical difficulties. So, um, I got people calling me already. Take care of yourself, Yasin. Thanks for checking in, man. By the way, what Yasin was doing right there was fantastic. That's exactly what this channel is all about. Um, Being able to talk to somebody when you need to talk, and he or she, I don't know, is doing the exact right thing by knowing where to start. And that's the hardest part is just starting. It's always the hardest part is just starting. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. We're getting to the top of the hour. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Whether you were listening or chatting, just thanks for tuning in. And I'm going to make sure that every Monday we continue doing this chat. And I promise you next week I will have this all together. Um, I'm gonna have to start doing a few of these launches with the, I thought I was doing the right thing. I set the YouTube link up to, schedule out into the future so everybody could see it and click on it, and nothing worked. Man, it's the worst feeling, like you're trying to be up on stuff and you try to go launch it. And I was early. I was like 5 minutes early when I came in, and like nothing was working. It's like, oh come on. Oh. So I just after like 10 minutes in, I was like, I'm just gonna delete the link and start over again. I don't know what the hell's going on. Um, by the time I'm good at all of this YouTube live stuff, yeah, I've said enough. I'm just gonna wait it out. All right. All right. Gonna wrap it up. So think I'm done for the day. Thank you guys for joining me. I am going to close shop and we'll catch back up next Monday. Please take care of yourself and stay on that road to recovery.